Well, just a few decades ago, the idea that the government could easily follow your finances, your health records, and even your movements seemed like something out of science fiction. But as Paul Strand reports, it's getting closer and closer to a frightening reality which may have been spoken of in the book of Revelation.
9/11 turned much of the West into a super surveillance society, and high-tech devices and innovations will soon enable that society to track everyone all the time and easily poke its nose into everyone's lives. It may not be George Orwell's nightmare world of 1984, where Big Brother can see all and control all, but it's forging the tools to create such a world. Michael Osterlink has been watching it all evolve from his position at the Liberty Coalition.
We're talking little brother now, and we're talking big brother down the road.
Attempts to track terrorists and illegal immigrants have led to massive new efforts to ID people beyond any doubt, using their body's own unique fingerprints, facial and iris patterns, our biometrics. The program, called Real ID, would marry our biometric information with our driver's licenses.
It would require all states to conform to national standards for identity for your driver's license. So it basically creates a national identity card.
Amy Stepanovich at the Electronic Privacy Information Center says that's enough to make many states say no way.
24 states have enacted laws saying that Real ID will not be implemented in their states.
The E-Verify system has been proposed to boot illegal immigrants out of the American workplace. But both Osterlink and Stepanovich object to its overreach.
E-Verify is kind of the government inserting itself between an employer and employee. The employer must collect certain types of information and send it over to the government.
The government will check the databases and let the employer know if they can hire or keep the worker.
But you should never have to seek permission from the federal government to be employed or for an employer to hire a new person.
And Stepanovich complains the databases are filled with errors.
So people are being rejected for employment, or they lose the employment they already have based on information in the system that may or may not be true.
Then there are the airport security systems that have millions of American flyers coping with groping or facing virtual reality strip searches.
There is a huge embarrassment factor. These machines have been known to show cellulite. They show like every single piece of the human body.
Such programs and measures can impinge on every citizen.
Whether it's war on terror or illegal immigrants, a lot of these programs are pushed to fight the boogeyman, whatever the boogeyman happens to be, but they ensnarl all American citizens in it.
Now add the wonders of miniaturized high tech. Tiny radio frequency IDs, called RFIDs, are being attached to hundreds of millions of objects so they can be inventoried, tracked, and sold in an instant. More and more, these kinds of information-saturated teensy trackers are ending up in livestock and pets through surgically inserted Verichips the size of a grain of rice. Some government programs and some cities are making this chipping mandatory. And it's now becoming much more acceptable to use biometrics, RFIDs, or chipping on people. Such chipping could help track lost or kidnapped kids or Alzheimer's victims who wander off. But along with helpful uses, these things can also be used to control people more. It can be seen in the school where kids now have to have their biometrics checked before they can get food from the cafeteria. Or the hospital where embedded microchips are ratting out medical workers who haven't washed their hands enough. This chipping may seem strange now, but Osterlink thinks it'll become commonplace as it spreads.
So the next generation arises that says, well, it's kind of normal. Of course you need a device to keep track of you to make sure you don't get kidnapped or get lost or, into trouble.
Some are even suggesting rather than cash or credit cards that can be lost or stolen, we might be better off doing all our financial transactions through implanted chips safe under our skin. In another twist, Osterlink points out soon our medical records will be added to these ID and trackable systems. The worry is, if everything you buy and how you live your life can be tracked, and all your medical secrets can be known, how might this information be used against you? Deny you insurance? Deny you certain jobs? And over time,
a dossier on you is going to grow and grow and grow.
Almost anything could be added to the RFIDs on you or the chips in you.
Why not gun records, too? Because the argument could be made, well, police need to know who has guns.
Soon the drones killing terrorists in Pakistan will be patrolling America's borders and inner cities, and they'll have access to all those databases about every citizen.
It is quite nerve-wracking to consider these unmanned drones flying above us with surveillance cameras keeping track of us.
Everyone wants to fight terror and crime and have a secure nation.
But when that's done at the cost of privacy for every single person going about their everyday lives, it's not really consistent with our constitutional protections and principles.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Well, the Bible speaks of such a time when people could not buy or sell without the, quote, mark of the beast. And that number, 666, well, what is it? Well, could an implanted chip carry such a number? And does it matter what the number is? The number speaks to humanity. It's less than perfect. 6 is the number of mankind. But are we coming that way? The answer is unfortunately yes. In the highly developed civilizations, we have the ability now to track every human being. We didn't used to have that, but now there are computers that are powerful enough to take enough information to take every person in the world and track them from the moment they get up to the moment they go to bed at night. And is that fun to think about? Well, read 1984, George Orwell's chilling account of what may well be coming. Well, when you hear the phrase end times, you may think of something called the rapture or the tribulation or the Antichrist. But there are 2 more subtle signs you may not be looking for. They're found in the book of Daniel, and they're taking place right now all over the world.
Today, the world is moving at an unprecedented pace. Never before has the planet been so crowded with people running to and fro as Daniel prophesied. Here in America, people spend 100 hours a year just getting to work, and they work 4 times more than they did just 50 years ago. People around the world are busier than ever, and studies show that our brains are doing a great job keeping up with our schedules. The second part of Daniel's prophecy says that in the end times, knowledge shall increase. The Hebrew word for knowledge here implies perception, skill, discernment, and wisdom. And in this generation, that prophecy is coming true. In the last 100 years, technology has advanced further than in all the previous centuries combined, with satellites and cell phones, air and space travel, and TV and the internet, to name just a few. We've also seen unparalleled advances in medicine, vaccines, antibiotics, and transplants. We've even unlocked the genetic code. Over the past century, scientists and inventors have taken their skills to a whole new level. But they're not the only ones. According to IQ tests, we're all much smarter than we were 100 years ago. On average, the test scores have increased 3 points every decade, a phenomenon known as the Flynn effect, named after scientist James Flynn. His study also found that someone who took an IQ test 100 years ago and scored in the top 10% would rank in the bottom 5% today. The same was true in 20 other countries. And it's not just the students at the bottom of the class who are improving. Flynn's study shows that the smartest 5% of people are getting even smarter. So what's behind the global increase in knowledge? Some say it's because today's children have better nutrition, education, and medical care. Others say the internet and video games are training kids to be better problem solvers. No matter what the reasons are, we're seeing the fulfillment of what Daniel prophesied more than 2,500 years ago. After decades of research, even Flynn himself was puzzled by the steady rise of the human IQ. So here's how he explained it. It's as if some unseen hand is propelling the scores upward.
Fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. The Bible before your eyes. Well, still ahead, from Adam to the end times. We'll tell you how the world started and how it may end. Plus, we'll head to our chat room for your questions about prophecy and the end times. Linda says, quote, recently I had to renew my driver's license. They told me my new license had to comply with the Real ID Act. I got the new license, but now I'm concerned. Did I just take the mark of the beast without knowing it? Well, we'll try to answer that question and more when we come back.